Los Angeles, where protests over immigration raids have raged for 4 straight nights. There have been violent clashes with police, dozens of arrests, and a growing amount of damage. President Trump is doubling his deployment of National Guard troops to 4,000, and about 700 active duty Marines have been mobilized to help protect federal personnel and property, according to the administration. California is suing the Trump administration for deploying the National Guard without state consent. A lot going on. Joining us here to better understand the dynamic is Congresswoman Barragán. She is a California Democrat who represents part of Los Angeles as well as the Paramount area where ICE agents and community members clashed on Saturday. Congresswoman, thank you so much for coming on. First of all, I want to go to your district. If you would just give us an assessment of what is going on there, what you know about the damage to the buildings and offices, the arrests, just give us an understanding of that.
So this all started on Saturday morning in Paramount in my district. It was under control by the evening. And they only arrested one person and they detained several people, but they got that under control. Then it moved across the street into Compton, which is just outside my district. And then, of course, you saw the Saturday night activity, people coming out to cause trouble. I want to make sure that everybody knows we condemn any violence. And the people that are coming out to cause trouble should stay home. They should be arrested. We don't agree with them. I don't believe those are the people that are really coming out to protest these mass deportations. I also spoke to law enforcement that night that said, we have things under control. I said, do you need additional help? Do you need the National Guard? Do you need anybody else? Absolutely not. We've been told day in and day out, they do not need the National Guard. I want to remind people, too, that local law enforcement got this under control on Saturday night without the help of any National Guard or Marines. And it continued even the next day into when you had LAPD control the situation. Then you had the National Guard show up. Okay, that's, of course, going to inflame the situation as we expected that it would. And you're seeing people come out and protest because they don't want the National Guard. They don't even want ICE, of course, doing their mass deportation there.
I just want to follow up on that because, officers on the ground in the video we have from Saturday, it showed that it was still an ongoing dynamic situation. And the LAPD said, the chief there said that he was overwhelmed after Saturday. What do you say to that?
So I think Saturday night in Paramount, they had this situation under control. As I mentioned, it went across the street into Compton. Then you had the overnight, a car being burned, property damage, things like that. And so in that situation, overnight, LAPD got that under control. The next day is when the National Guard showed up, and that's the next day when you saw the police say, hey, this is overwhelming. And so that was after the National Guard showed up. That's when more people started to come out into protest into Sunday.
So I want to go to talk a little bit more about that because Tom Homan, the president's border czar, was on CNN last night. He was asked about that, what you just said, and other Democrats, Governor Newsom, Mayor Bass, that the National Guard has actually ratcheted up the violence in LA. Here's how he responded. Let's listen to that.
I keep hearing media reports that they're rioting because President Trump sent National Guard. It's just ridiculous. They make the decision to burn a vehicle. They make the decision to throw a weapon at an law enforcement officer. They make the decision on assaulting officers. This is their decision. President Trump doesn't make them burn a vehicle or assaulting an officer.
What is your response?
I think the president sending the National Guard is inflaming the situation, and of course having ICE on the ground is inflaming the situation. I completely agree that the people that are being disruptive, that are burning cars, that are assaulting law enforcement should be arrested. Those are not the folks that we're mostly seeing, which is protesters. We saw that all day yesterday in downtown Los Angeles, thousands of people. Now, the people, again, that are violent, we should definitely go after them. But local law enforcement can handle them, and they have said that day in and day out. And I do believe that if you saw the withdrawal, you would see the situation back under control. People right now are coming out to stand with their brothers and sisters and saying, we are not going to let you come in and just do mass deportations. And those have been primarily very peaceful. Now, let me also just mention, you had the Secretary of Homeland Security say that the city of Los Angeles, it's a city of criminals. That just goes to show you what this administration and how they're treating things. They're just treating everybody as a criminal. They're not distinguishing between who are the real criminals versus which are the folks that they're saying they're going after, versus everybody else. And of course, people on the streets are outraged about the history of what's been happening over the last couple of months with the administration showing up at hospitals, showing up in delivery rooms where mothers are giving birth just to take the mother away right after they give birth, in schools, and now, of course, going into Home Depot.
Do you know a specific story about that, where they've actually gone to a delivery room to take a mother away?
Absolutely. In Tucson, Arizona, this was a situation. They were sitting and waiting at a hospital delivery room until she gave birth, a woman from Guatemala, to take her child away, to then deport her. Now, you had the governor there come out, and then they said, okay, we're going to let her go through the asylum process. But that is why you're seeing this outrage.
Right, but in your district in particular, focusing on that, where some of these arrests have happened by ICE, ICE claims, and it has not released a list, but it is claiming that it is arresting people here illegally who have criminal backgrounds. Do you support that, if that is in fact the case of what is happening?
Absolutely. If you are going after serious criminal offenders, we support that. There is no disagreement about that. But they're not doing targeted enforcement. What they're doing is they're doing mass deportation, roundup of just everybody, let's see who we can get. Now,
so Homeland people who are here illegally, do you support this? So they may not have a criminal background, but they're here illegally and they're rounded up. Do you support that?
Well, some of those people have existing cases. Some of those people, they're just dismissing their cases. They're trampling on due process. They're not even getting access to a lawyer. So I don't support the process and the system that it's working right now. Now, DHS did put out a list of people they allege to have gotten in Los Angeles over the last couple of days. If you go take a look at the list already, you'll see one of those people that they have listed on there is somebody who did something when they were 18 years old, was convicted, served like 23 years, and a parole board let them out. And that's why they were. So a parole board had said they were safe to go back into the community. They knew where the person was. They could have just called the person and said, hey, come on in for a check, and did the deportation. So that list that they put out is something I don't even trust. I think we need to go through and see. We do know that of the 200 people that were detained, almost nobody has a criminal record. And I can tell you, when you get briefings by the Department of Homeland Security, I used to be the chair of that subcommittee, they will tell you it is the targeted enforcement of criminals that is what's going to make us more safe. Why? Because you're using your resources to go actually after the bad people. When you spread it out and say, we're just going to go get anybody we can, that's actually making us less safe. Because now you're using resources to get people who are their friends, the neighbors, people who've been here for 10, 20 years, DACA recipients. That's what we're talking about.
Just to follow up quickly, have you gotten any specific briefings on those who are arrested that indicated that they weren't criminals or that they didn't?
I have talked with immigrant rights organizations and advocacy groups who have been in touch with the people that have been detained. And so far, from the information collected, of 200 people detained, almost nobody had a criminal record.
All right, thank you so much, Congresswoman. We really